Congratulations, your loan for £125,000 has just been approved. That was the email that I received back in January 2008, enabling me to hand in my notice at PwC and sign the contract to buy a small accountancy practice on the south coast of the UK. A few weeks later, the world goes into financial meltdown, the crisis of 2008. I was the guy that was mortgaged to the hilt. I was the guy that was taking a 70% pay cut in earnings. I was the guy that was trading his cozy job at PwC for an unknown adventure to run an accountancy business during the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. People thought I was crazy. But you know what was even crazier? The way I ran that business in the first 5 years. I made every mistake under the sun because they don't teach you how to run an accountancy business when you do your accountancy training. Nobody teaches you how to price your services. Nobody teaches you how to win work. Nobody teaches you how to lead and manage a team. So I ended up just winging it and not getting very far. I worked crazy hours thinking I had to trade my time for money. I undercut to win work because that's what I thought you had to do. I micromanaged and insisted on timesheets because that's what I learned at the Big Four. But I still wasn't making any money, only attracting poor quality clients and struggling to attract and retain good people. We were constantly living out of our overdraft. Making payroll and GST payments was tight. Meanwhile, at home, things were equally crazy. Our house was like a baby factory. We had 4 kids in the space of 5 years. We'd always wanted a big family, and the business was supposed to be the vehicle that gave us the freedom to take off the school holidays, travel the world with the kids, and have fun. The reality, however, was far from it. I was working long hours at the office, burning the midnight oil. My wife was raising the kids single-handedly, and it was exhausting. Even when I was home, I wasn't present. My mind was on work. I was living in continuous regret, watching my kids grow, but unable to make any lasting memories. Something had to change. And then late one evening, as I'm sitting in the office trying to get through the barrage of daily emails I would receive, I spotted an invitation to a webinar on practice growth, promising to solve all my problems. I had nothing to lose, so I registered and I attended. And I was glued for 90 minutes. What I learned that day planted the seed that led to the transformation of my results and ultimately my life. Off the back of that webinar, I joined a mentoring program to learn more. I was skeptical at first, but I started to implement some of what I was learning and got results. So I implemented more and got bigger and better results. And within just 24 months, I'd gone from struggling, frustrated, chasing clients for invoices of between $1,000 and $2,000 to winning a one-off project of $190,000, taking our firm to over $1 million in revenue with just 7 people. And best of all, doing this whilst working less than 5 hours a week in the practice. Hi, I'm Reza, and my mission is to help accountants and bookkeepers to build a profitable, successful, and impactful firm that gives them the time, money, and financial freedom that they deserve. So in the short time that we have here today, I'm going to try and condense 17 years worth of learnings and mistakes that I have made and share with you some insights, 3 powerful insights that will hopefully do the same for you. So if you're overwhelmed with everything that you have going on at the moment, then this is for you. If you're frustrated with your lack of progress and have hit a plateau, then this is for you. Or simply, if you're working too hard for too little money, then this is for you. So, are you ready? It's just a few at the front. Come on, America, I expected more. Are you ready? That's more like it. It sounded like reserved British people there for a second. Cool. All right. So, over the years that I've learned the hard way and then started to teach other firm owners to do the same, I realized that everything that I've done fell into 4 main pillars of pricing, process, people, and positioning. And if you can build and fortify these foundations, then you can grow and scale any size practice that you please that gives you the life that you want. And when you do, this is what could be possible. 2008, screenshot of our P&L there when I took over the firm, £125,000, up it by 30% to get the dollar amount, about $150,000. Hardly anything in net profit. Fast forward 10 years, we got to over $1 million in revenue with $800,000 of gross profit. Now, most of that growth came in the few years prior. This is what is possible. I share this to give you motivation and inspiration as to what is possible. Now, we don't have time to go through all 4 pillars, but my goal for the next 30 minutes or so is to get you to believe that positioning yourself as an expert is the key to winning new clients, getting higher prices, and growing your firm. I'm going to share with you my tried and tested frameworks that will make it simple for you to achieve this result. So here's how we're going to do it. The 3 insights I'm going to share with you are, number 1, why is the opportunity right now, and how can you take advantage? Number 2, what is that big opportunity to earn high 5-digit recurring fees? And number 3, how can you charge higher prices and actually have better clients wanting to work with you? So let's move on very quickly to number 1. Why is the opportunity right now, and how can you take advantage? Remember this date, March 2020? I remember it very well. 16th of March 2020, in fact, when the UK announced lockdown, pandemic time. I remember it vividly because for the first time in a long time, we were celebrating my 40th birthday, and we had the opportunity to book a dream holiday to Abu Dhabi, business class, and a luxury holiday just for my wife and I, because seldom do you get opportunities in life to palm off 4 kids to the grandparents. This milestone birthday was one of them, but the pandemic put pay to that and we never got to go. So I remember it vividly. Lockdown happened. So I go back to the office, everyone's at home, my firm is running without me now, the team are taking care of all the grants and everything that is going on at the time. And I thought, what shall I do? Let me invest in a marketing campaign whilst everyone else is hunkering down, figuring out what to do. And I thought, okay, we've got some funds built up. Let me splash out on a Facebook ad campaign and see what happens. So I did. And surprisingly, we're starting to get calls booked. And getting calls booked from all around the country. And between March and October, I had the most Zoom calls I've ever had from prospects that were getting in touch from all around the country from this marketing campaign. Something subtle but profound was happening. And in that 7-month period, whilst everyone else was hunkering down, we had one of our best ever periods, putting on over £150,000 of new business, or nearly $200,000. What happens was this. There was a big shift that took place, a societal shift that ordinarily would have taken a decade, happened within a 6 to 12-month period. What was that? People got comfortable having Zoom conversations. People got comfortable sending you stuff electronically because your offices were closed. This societal shift, whilst very subtle, is profound. What it means is that you can now attract business from anywhere in the country because your client does not need to be local to you anymore. Prior to the pandemic, most of our clients were local to us. That wasn't the case. From March 2020 onwards, now most of our client base is all around the country. The pandemic widened our reach. People are comfortable having Zoom conversations with you. They don't need to come to your office to drop off records anymore because you've given them the apps to send you the information electronically. You can do everything you need to in the cloud now. You're able to service clients much more efficiently than ever before. And the opportunity for us is huge because these big firms, they're sluggish. They're slow to adapt. We are nimble. We are agile. You can make a decision now to change, to move your whole firm over to this way of working if you haven't already. This is why the opportunity is right now. So how do we take advantage? We get clear on who we serve. That is the key. Focus, niche down, specialize into one particular sector. Then laser focus your messaging on that particular target audience and position yourself as the expert by leading with value, putting out content in the world that speaks directly to your target audience. Now, if you're wondering how on earth do you do that, let me rewind back to before I figured this out and how I figured it out, because it didn't just come to me overnight. Before I discovered this whole world of there are other people who have done this before me, that there are people who've written books on marketing and sales and leadership, and I could go and learn from them. I could go and buy their courses and jump on their masterminds and learn so I don't spend years doing things the wrong way. I tried everything to win business. Telemarketing, networking, those early morning BNI meetings at 6 o'clock, paid ads, mail shots, direct mail, email, you name it, I tried it. And a few would come, but mainly crickets. My main source was still referrals, but they're inconsistent. You never know when the next one is coming. So as I go on my journey of discovery, I realized that rather than paying thousands to marketing agencies to spend my money and give me nothing in return, I could go and learn. So I went and learned marketing from the people who'd written about the subject, who'd actually done it, entrepreneurs who'd done it in the real world. I immersed myself in reading their books, buying their courses, learning from them, getting coaches, mentors. And they're all saying the same thing. Laser focus your messaging. Niche down. Specialize. Not every SME in the country is your potential client. That's how you get traction. That's how it's easier for you to grow. And this is what I learned. Marketing is simply about finding that person who has a specific need or problem to know, like, and trust you. We can't know what someone's needs or problems are if we don't know who they are. We need to get the who right, then everything else just falls into space. So in 2016, after racking my brains as to what niche do I go down, I chose property. We had a few property clients. I was just starting my journey as buying a few buy-to-let properties. So I created some content. I kept hearing, you've got to lead with value. You've got to put out something in the world for free for people to see you as the expert. So I wrote a book. It sounds grandiose, but it was simply a collection of the most common questions that I would get from clients and potential clients that I had. It was not groundbreaking stuff. Every other accountant would have the same answers. I just did something different. I packaged it up. I put it into a book. I had it printed. I put it on Amazon. I started to hand it out to other people that had access to my audience, solicitors, bankers, etc. I put it on Amazon, and then I created blog posts out of it, social posts out of it, directed traffic to it. I created some YouTube videos on the same content, and lo and behold, guess what happened? I started to get inbound inquiries, and then started doing big fees that I never thought were possible. $29,000 and $40,000, $32,000, and that big fee of £135,000 or $190,000 that even my ex-bosses at PwC would have been proud of, all because I positioned myself as the expert. It wasn't because I was the smartest accountant in the country. In fact, I knew less than probably others, but I just differentiated myself from everybody else by positioning myself as the expert, putting content out there, leading with value in advance. When you're the expert, you can get paid for initial consultations. Most accountants, we offer us a free initial consultation. When you're the expert and you've put value out in the world, answering questions, you can now get paid for initial consultations. Anyone who comes to us in the property niche, they get routed to a paid consultation. They will pay $400 for initial 45-minute consultation with us, because if they want free generic stuff, it's all out there. We've put out the videos. We've put out the blog posts. We've got the book on this subject. But if you want a specific consultation on your circumstances and want your specific questions answered, then here is the fee for that initial consultation. And people pay it. Got over $10,000 a year from initial consultations. And off the back of that, we'll still win the work from some people who want us to act for them. That's what happens when you're the expert. The more laser-focused you are, the easier it is to find clients. The reason why you're struggling with marketing at the moment is because it's overwhelming. It's like, how on earth do I reach clients? But the moment you niche down, the moment you decide who your audience is, everything else just becomes clearer. You know exactly what content to create. You know exactly where to go. You know exactly who to talk to get the introductions to that particular audience. If not, this is what happens. You get lost in the sea of sameness. When a client cannot differentiate you from another accountant, what happens? The only thing differentiating you is price, and that's never a good thing. The aim of the game is differentiation. Don't get lost in the sea of sameness. Differentiation is about going inch wide, mile deep. It becomes much harder for competitors to follow once you go deep into one particular sector. Because when you try and appeal to everyone, you actually appeal to no one. It's not the first time you're hearing this over the course of the last couple of days. There's a pattern here. This is the same for me. I kept hearing the same thing from people. Every book I read told me the same thing. And eventually I decided to take action, and once I did, boom, everything changed. When you get this right, the who right, the what, where, and how to find clients becomes so much easier. You get less price pressure because you're now the specialist. Who gets paid more, the GP or the brain surgeon? Absolutely. You become more profitable because there's a certain magic that happens. And listen to this, because this is profound. We overcomplicate business, but our business is very simple. If you can maximize what you get in at the top end and minimize what goes out, you make more profit. The way you do this is through your positioning. You position yourself as the expert because pricing follows positioning. So therefore, you get paid more in at the top end. You're dealing with the same sort of client. So what happens? You build efficient systems and processes. Your team can now handle more clients because they're dealing with the same sort of clients. They know exactly what questions to expect. They know exactly how to set up the bookkeeping to process all the transactions. So you're getting more in at the top end. It's more efficient for you to do the work now. So what's that gap? You're a nice, big, lovely, healthy profit. And there's less competition. You're not in the sea of sameness. You're in that blue ocean. You move from that bloody red ocean where everyone's fighting over the same business to this serene blue ocean, a market of one. You get to price whatever you like because you've specialized and niched down into one particular sector. As I start my journey in 2019 of teaching accountants the same thing that I'd gone through, the mistakes that I've made and what I'd done, I kept hearing from accountants, how do we win clients? How do we win clients? The number one challenge. So after teaching a course for a couple of years, in 2021 I said, right, rather than just teach you again and share the property niche journey I'd gone down, I said, let me do something radical. Rather than just teach you, I'll do it with you. I'm going to launch a brand new firm with a new name, a new logo, a new audience. And everything I do, I'll share with you in real time. The promise of the course was 0 to 100K in 12 months. So if I didn't get there ourselves, it'd be serious egg on my face. Thankfully, we got there in 9. The firm that I launched was called Capture Accounting. It was a firm. The niche of the firm was content creators and influencers. For those of you thinking, I don't have enough clients in a particular niche to be able to focus and specialize into that area, we had the grand total of one client in that space when I started Capture Accounting. But we worked with him for 18 months. So there was a lot of things to figure out in terms of how do we set up the bookkeeping, where does the income come from, what are the tax issues that we've got to deal with. But once you learn something once, it doesn't disappear. It stays with you. That knowledge stays with you, which means the second, third, fourth client that come along, everything's so much easier. So what I realized is that I needed to get my positioning right before adopting the tactics. Most of us were thinking about, right, what do I do? Google Ads, do I do PPC, do I do SEO, do I do networking? These are all tactics. Tactics without strategy is just noise. Your strategy is your who. Get that right, and then everything else becomes so much easier. As we said, pricing is directly linked to positioning. If you're struggling to get higher prices, it's probably because you're not differentiated enough. Your client can't see you as different from the accountant down the road. When they can't see you as different, then the only thing differentiating you is price. That's never a good thing. I also realized I had to invest in myself to learn the skills of marketing and sales to grow my business. You can get accountants to do accounting work for you and bookkeepers to get bookkeeping work, but you can't get people to grow your business. You've got to buy back your time, pay people to do the accounting work so you can spend your time, leverage your time on learning the skills of marketing and sales to grow your business. That's where your time is best spent. As we said, you don't differentiate, you'll be competing on price, and that's never a good thing. You can do this too. Number 1, get clear on who you serve. Number 2, take advantage of the opportunity to reach clients nationwide. You go inch wide, mile deep. Okay, let's move on to insight number 2. What is the big opportunity to earn these high 5-digit recurring fees? If we take a trip down memory lane, maybe 10, 15 years ago, possibly it's still the same today for some clients, the client owned the data. The data was on spreadsheets, maybe Sage Desktop, and they would send you the stuff at year end. You work your magic and say, here's how much tax you have to pay. See you again next year. There was a disconnect. The client owned the data. You couldn't really manage it cost effectively, and therefore that was your role. And therefore they had an in-house bookkeeper or finance manager, or maybe they just handled it themselves. There was a gap. There was a gap that existed that most business owners needed the financial acumen of someone like you to be able to steer them in the finance world so that it didn't go out of business. But they simply couldn't afford to be able to have that level of input. They couldn't afford to have a fractional CFO and a fractional controller and a fractional finance manager and a full-time bookkeeper, which is what they actually needed. And so they just make do with unfit-for-purpose financial staff. And there's no surprise then why most businesses go out of business before their 5th anniversary. They needed access to these levels of financial acumen, but couldn't get it. That's changed. The cloud software revolution has enabled us to work much closer with clients than ever before, which represents a huge opportunity for us to take over the full finance function, to provide that service from bookkeeper to CFO and anything in between. I call it the virtual finance office. We need to reframe bookkeeping. Don't call your service bookkeeping. It's low value. What you do is much more than bookkeeping. You're managing the entire accounting system. What you do now would have taken a team of 5, 10 people to do AR, AP, working capital, compliance, etc., 10, 15 years ago before cloud software came about. Don't devalue your service. And when you own the numbers, you own the relationship. For accountants out there who think bookkeeping is lowly and beneath you, it is not. Bookkeeping is everything. It's the foundation of everything. Take on board the bookkeeping, the finance function. because there is no advisory without the foundation being in place. And when you own the numbers, you own the relationship. How I came across this was one day I was having a year-end meeting with a client of mine going through the financial statements, and he says to me, Reza, we've just had our Sue from finance, our finance manager, handed in her notice. Do you know anyone that could take over? I didn't know anyone at the time, but I said, we'd just taken on Xero back then. This was about 10 years back. And I said, we could do it for you. He said, really? I said, yeah. He said, how? I said, well, we've got this new software that we've just brought on board. It means that we can access your data in real time. Your admin person can raise invoices, and we'll do all the rest. He said, really, how much? I said, well, how much are you paying Sue? He said, well, Sue was on a salary of $45,000 with other benefits, etc. I said, okay, we'll do it for $35,000. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, okay, we've got a deal. I had no idea whether we could, but I thought for that fee, we'll figure it out. And figure it out we did. We learnt the software, and now the client is still with us, and we're managing everything and made it much more efficient than ever before. He saw value. What we were doing, we're taking over that role, and that is the value of what we provide. Clients want one contact. They're busy enough. They don't want to have to deal with a bookkeeper here, in-house person here, accountant here, tax preparer there. They want it in one person to just take care of the burden for them. If you can provide that role, then they're happy to pay a premium for that. So I call it the virtual finance office. It's where you can work much closer than ever before. It's cost-effective for clients, and it's easy to deliver for you. And when you get this right, you too can earn high 5-digit recurring fees. So these are some of the top 20, 30 clients that we have. Our average fees have gone from £1,000 to over £10,000 now for clients by providing this service. And it's all taken care of by my team. I don't need to get involved at all. I've taught this to many accountants and bookkeepers. Here is Sharon, who started her firm in 2020. She's a bookkeeper, getting proposals accepted of £1,800 a month, following this process, communicating the value of the VFO offering. Here's another one, Michelle, who communicated the value of the VFO offering, getting fees of £26,000, around $32,000. Here's another one. Michael started his firm in 2022, winning fees of £51,500. That's about $65,000. Only started his firm in 2022, niche down into working with digital marketing agencies. And here is another one, fantastic. Imagine if you got this kind of result. Suzanne, in the middle of England, she has a very small firm, only 4 to 5 employees, moved away from timesheet billing to communicating the value of the CFO offering, and now getting a fee of £180,000 or $220,000. Isn't that amazing? What difference would it make in your life if you got those kind of results? You can do this too. Move from once-a-year accounting to real-time accounting. Move from that low reliance of just doing year-end to high reliance of being everything, having all those touch points day in, day out. Move from being that obligation just because it's a legal requirement to necessity. When you manage the finance function, the client needs you. Then he needs you to tell them, what do I have got to pay? Who do I need to pay to? What's my cash flow looking like? What are my numbers? What are my margins? Move from that low perceived value to the not being able to do without you. And if you don't transition, what's going to happen? Once a year accounting is dying. Before long, it's going to fall out of software, which means year-end work will be commoditized, more price pressure. It'll be low value in the client's eyes, and you'll either earn less or lose clients to forward-thinking accountants. Seize the opportunity. You can do this too. Understand that bookkeeping is an opportunity. Reframe bookkeeping to communicate its true value and price based upon the value. So let's move on to pricing now. How do we charge higher prices and get better clients? I learned this the hard way. People who come to you on price will leave you on price. Back in the day, I engaged a telemarketing agency to get me appointments. So I was going around the streets of Southampton, meeting with clients, and when it came to the proposal, I don't know if it's the case over here, but in the UK, in the financial statements, on the last page is a detailed P&L. So you can have a look at what accountancy fees they're currently paying. So that's how I used to come up with the price. I'd ask them for their accounts, flick to the last page, look at what they were paying, and then quote a fee slightly lower than what they were currently paying. The client would obviously say, yes, I was happy. 2 years later, some other accountant engages a telemarketing company who approaches my client, undercuts me, the client leaves. People who join you on price will also leave you on price. So, when it comes to pricing, there are only two pricing strategies: low-cost leadership and high-value differentiation. Low-cost leadership is where you focus on being the cost leader, on providing a service for the lowest possible price in the market. So therefore, you become highly efficient and have automated processes to enable you to still be profitable at the lowest price in the market. High-value differentiation, you focus on service, on value, on being different. Premium end, personalization. Examples of companies that do this: low-cost leadership, Dell, Walmart, Southwest. High-value differentiation, Porsche, Apple, etc. So either you're one or the other, because there's no strategic benefit of being the cheapest, second cheapest in the marketplace. So either you're low-cost leadership or your high-value differentiation. Don't get stuck in that mushy middle. That's the worst place to be. So how on earth do we price based upon value? Everybody says price based on value, but what does that mean? Well, let me share with you 4 fundamentals of pricing value that will help you to hopefully understand this and start doing it. The first is price comes from value, not costs. Second is the prestige phenomenon. The third is the contrast principle. And the fourth is the power of context. First one, this one. When this penny drops, your mind is blown, and it will transform the way that you think about pricing. Price comes from value, not costs. Let me give you an example. Clients don't care about your costs. Nobody cares about your costs. Clients don't care about your time. Just like you don't care about the cost or time put into anything that you buy. Let's take a cup of coffee. Do you walk into Starbucks and say, right, the cost of the coffee beans that are in this cup is 30 cents. The cost of the milk, 20 cents. The direct cost associated with making this coffee, 10 cents. The overhead apportionment, 10 cents. An acceptable profit margin of 20 cents. I'm only paying $1.40 for my latte. You don't do that. You look at the price and choice that's presented to you, and you make a judgment. Is the price less than the value I perceive I am getting? If yes, I buy. If not, I walk out. Same for anything we buy in life. From a car, to an iPhone, to a Tiffany's paperclip for $1,500, or to accountancy services. Nobody cares about costs. We only care about value, what we get. We don't sell time. Let's get this out of our heads. We do not sell time. Look at this graph, right? We think that the more time we spend, the more we can charge. But what happens in reality, right? We look at the clock, and we have a look to see, will the client pay this amount? Actually, he's not going to pay it. We're going to write off this amount, and therefore we're going to raise an invoice for this instead. Or for client B, we look at the clock and say, actually, we can get a bit more from that, so we are going to send an invoice for X amount. If we're only going to send an invoice for what we think the client will pay, what is the point of all this shenanigans of recording time, reviewing time, writing off time, sending off invoices based on time? It's a complete waste of time. Instead, just understand and get the price agreed from the client in advance, and then move on. The client doesn't care about your time. They only care about the result, outcome, solution that they get. The new pricing model is this. You do high-value stuff, you get paid more. You do low-value stuff, you get paid less. There is only ever a correlation between price and value, not price and time. As Peter Drucker said, knowledge work is not defined by quantity. Neither is knowledge work defined by its costs. Knowledge work is defined by its results. The value we provide is not in the tax returns that we produce. It's the access to you and your team to solve problems. If a client is on your books and they can call you when they need you, that is value. It's the peace of mind you deliver, the stress you take away. It's the money you put in your client's pockets. It's the time you help save the client, not the time it takes you. But if you say, I can't possibly charge, $1,000 for a 30-minute job, why not? If you can do a job in 30 minutes, it's because it's taken you 10 years to learn how to do it in 10 minutes. The client owes you for the years, not the minutes. Your clients are not price sensitive. Stop telling yourself your clients are price sensitive. They're not. They're value sensitive. We're all value sensitive. So we need to get good and better at understanding how do we project our value? How do we communicate our value better? And therefore, price will follow value. The prestige phenomenon. This is the idea. When something is expensive, we automatically associate notions of quality to it. When something is cheap, we automatically associate a notion of low quality to it. Again, pricing is all perception. Think about this. When you're scrolling on Amazon for a phone case and you come across something too cheap, you think, nah, it's probably going to fall apart after a couple of months. I'll go for something a bit more expensive. Completely irrational. But that's just how we make judgments about pricing. When we look at something which is too cheap, we think it's low quality. When we look at something more expensive, automatically we value it more. It must be good because it's expensive. If nothing else, increase your prices so clients see you as better, premium, more higher quality. Third fundamental, the contrast principle. We're clueless about a price. Without contrast, everything looks expensive or cheap. Because the area in our brain that we use to make judgments around price is the same area in our brain we make sensory judgments. So, for example, if I gave you a bag of bricks and said, how much does that weigh? You'd be hard-pushed to tell me. If I gave you 2 bags and you put them in each hand and I said, which one is heavier? That'd be quite easy for you to tell me. Same with pricing. We're sensitive to differences rather than absolutes. And therefore, we need to get better at providing contrast when we're talking about pricing. How do we do that? Well, here's an example. The $1,000 steak on the menu. The $1,000 steak on the menu isn't there really to sell you the $1,000 steak. It's to make you feel that spending $30 on a burger is reasonable. So how do we use the contrast principle in pricing? We talk about the alternative cost of our solution. What is the alternative cost of employing in-house? We heard Deborah say it earlier. The cost of hiring a bookkeeper, the cost of hiring a financial manager, a controller, a CFO. Talk about that. The brochures that I provide, that we use, have all those listed in there, which can be a prop in your sales conversations. When you productize it and you go through it, you're communicating value. You're talking about the alternative cost, so that when it comes to you giving your price, they're anchored to the number that you have given them, rather than what they're currently paying their accountant. You need to shift them away from what they're currently paying to the actual value of your solution. What is the risk of continuing the present accountant? The risk of penalties if things are not done, cleanup work needs to be done, things need to be filed. What is the risk of those penalties and interest compounding? How much is it costing you not having up-to-date management information? The amount of missed opportunities, quantify that. You've missed out on potentially tens of thousands of dollars worth of opportunities because your accountant didn't get you your financials in time. How much money you, as the client, are losing by not getting the right tax advice. The stuff we've just shared in this consultation, if you'd come with us 5 years ago, we could have saved you £200,000. How long are you going to stay with your existing accountant and suffer those losses? You can use this in pricing, 3-option pricing. Here is one of my members, Jeffrey, who was going to charge $6,000. I showed him how to do 3-option pricing, got triple the fee. He was obviously very happy. Give contrast when you are pricing. The last fundamental, the power of context. Where and how something is sold affects our willingness to pay a higher price for it. Take a bottle of Coke. Supermarket, $2. Cafe, $4. High-end hotel, $8. It's the same bottle of Coke. Where and how something is sold affects our willingness to pay a higher price for it. So when I look at value, I like to think of it as an iceberg. There's perceived value above the surface and actual value below the surface. When you're talking to a new client, the only thing they have to go on is above the surface. The touch points with you, the experience of booking a call with you, the experience of coming to your office, the experience of your sales call. They haven't touched your actual value yet. They haven't touched your responsiveness yet. So the only thing you have to go on is the feelings that they have in the experience with you. So what is it like when they come to your office? Is it chaotic, papers everywhere, phones going off, a stench from the takeaway next door? Do you serve them coffee in a free mug you got from an accountancy conference? Or is there a VIP parking space outside? They're served a menu when they come in. They have a choice of options. You give them coffee in a nice china cup. These things help to increase the perceived value in the minds of your prospect and therefore the price that you can charge. So we use a brochure to build the value, something I share with members of mine as well, where you build the value of the virtual finance office, you productize it, and therefore clients can see, oh, this is more than just bookkeeping. I've shared this with others. Here is Ahmad, who used the brochure, got a fee of over £8,000 at his VHD service. Here is Tom, his client made a comment. The brochure worked a treat. Client figured it would be much more expensive after seeing the brochure, the value of a good brochure. These things work. Again, it's all about perception of value. Mel here used the pricing system and brochure to get a fee of £24,000 or around $32,000. You can do this too. Focus on value, not time, because price comes from value. Increase your prices to reflect your quality. Provide contrast to the cost of employing in-house or the tax savings you help realize. Increase your perceived value. Bit overwhelmed? We've covered too much information, right? Now, it's impossible, right? Let me ask you a question. If you did what I showed you in insight number 1 and got clear on the who and took advantage of the ability to reach clients nationwide, do you think you could be successful? And then if you did what I showed you in insight number 2, repackaged bookkeeping, started to communicate the value of your full finance function service, do you think you would be successful? And if you did what I showed you in insight number 3 and started pricing based upon the value you deliver, do you think you could be successful? I'd hope so. So it's impossible to share everything with you in a short 40-minute presentation, and I've gone slightly over, I apologize. But if you want to spend more time together, here's 3 ways we can do that. Number 1, you have a copy of my book. Hopefully you have one on your table. I can only bring a certain amount within my luggage allowance. If you didn't manage to get one, and for those of you listening at home, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, and connect with me on LinkedIn anyway, just type in my name. I'm the only one on the planet, Reza Huda. There is a button, visit my website, and if you click on that, you can order a copy of my book, just pay the shipping and handling, and my office will send one out to you for free. So if you're listening to this on virtually at home, you can get a copy of my book that way if you were not lucky enough to be in the room today to get it. The second thing is my podcast. Make sure that you follow The Profitable Accountant. I'd love to take a picture of you with your copy of the book outside, if you could give me that pleasure to add to my collection. The podcast is my second best content outside my paid program. Here is a message I got from Patrick from Sydney only last week, who said that he listens to it every single week, made a huge difference. He started his firm just 2 years ago, and now he's at $1 million in revenue. So make sure you follow the Profitable Accountant podcast. Let me leave you with these 3 statements. Why be something to everybody when you can be everything to somebody? When you own the numbers, you own the relationship, and your clients are not price sensitive. They are value sensitive. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless.